Hi, this is Matt Johnson with Viral Marketing, and I'm excited to welcome you to the very first Generosity Generation Hangout with Michael Mayer. So, Michael, how are you doing today?
Doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm awesome. Thank you so much for doing these. So we're excited to have you and to present this material to people. So we're going to get into a lot of things, but I wanted to point out that right here on the Google Plus page, there's an application called the Q&A app, which you can use to submit your questions so that I can actually bring them and have Michael answer them live on air.
Right.
So let's get into it, Michael. Let's talk a little bit about, we want to talk about the story kind of behind the Generosity Generation and what led to the book that you wrote, The 7 Levels of Communication. So let's start there and get into it.
Yeah, so I've been presenting on the Generosity Generation for years. It's just been, I love the alliteration of it, and I saw this trend from my clientele. The beauty of having a referral-based business and being in flow and in momentum with your clients and the people that you know is you get a really good feel for how they are changing. You get a really good feel for how the consumer is purchasing, how they're buying. And in the early 2000s, what happened is people were getting tired of the all about me stuff. They were getting tired of the ego era. You know, all the realtors were putting thermometers in the newspaper and you know, talking about how great it was. All the websites were allaboutme.com, and they were just getting tired of it. They were getting tired of being you know, thrown these the mansions in their face. And I noticed that they weren't just like, it wasn't just a nuisance, they were being turned off by it. And so I started even developing more on the theory of the generosity generation and doing more of my business on referral-based business. And so I have to tell you, all I did was really, I had my nose at the grindstone. I was working my butt off entirely by referral, and I didn't know that what I was doing was really anything special. I was building relationships. I knew, you know, when I popped onto the radar with everybody when I was in the top 25 agents in Kansas City in just my 3rd year, that garnered me some attention, and it kind of surprised me, quite honestly, because I was just working. And then Howard Brinton interviewed me. Howard Brinton of Star Power interviewed me for the January 2005 interview, and he had a list of over 100,000 realtors, and these interviews went global. And interestingly enough, my emails blew up, my phone blew up. People wanted to know, how are you getting 500 referrals a year? How are you doing? What are you doing? And I didn't even know it was special. You know, it just was what it was. And then so they would ask me about the house room parties or the board of advisors or the triangle of trust or the power notes, the things that we're doing, and I would send them the answer or the system, and yet I knew in my heart of hearts that what I was giving them was an answer, Matt, not the answer. So I knew that I needed to produce the answer, because listen, the secret to a referral-based business is not a tactic or a strategy. It's a mindset, and it's truly a lifestyle. So I knew I had to produce more, so I wanted to write a book. And I was like, I need to write a book, get it out there, and by golly, that's the answer. And then I wouldn't have to feel those questions anymore, and people could live it, leave me alone, and I could go back to selling real estate. So I'm like 99% of all the others who say I need to write a book. And I was that guy for over 2 years. It's like, I need to write a book. I just need to write a book. It would just end all these questions, 100 emails a day, and you know, it would just end that. Well, then God sent me a message. I had routine knee surgery, routine, right? Just to clean some cartilage. It's all good. Went home, propped my knee up, iced it, and on Monday, December 17, 2007, I was feeling out of breath and had I just felt weird. So I checked in that night to the hospital. The next morning, they said they wanted to keep me for observation. The next morning, December 18, 2007, I was awakened by a nurse who was doing a sonogram on different parts of my body, and then started on my leg, and she was pressing the sonogram machine on my leg, and I experienced something, I just felt cold, and I felt like the world was slowing down. It was a very unique experience. And about 30 seconds later, I heard my own heart flatline. I remember, beep, and then I remember the alarm, and then I don't remember much. And then 37 seconds later, I was resuscitated by the head nurse, and when I came to, I, I was in pain, because it's just like I realized what happened. Then I realized what happened, and I don't cry much. I've probably cried 4 or 5 times in my life, but after the age of maybe 18, right? And then, it's just funny. I was being wheeled to surgery to put in a temporary pacemaker, and I thought of a lot of things. I thought, I don't have a child, and all of a sudden I wanted to have a child. Like legacy things started popping into my head, and then I thought of my wife, and that she was going to be mad. Isn't that interesting? She's going to be like mad at me. It's like I'm going to have to coach the doctor before they call, because she would definitely be sad if I died, but I think at that point she would have been mad as well. And then I thought of my dad, and my dad passed away at the age of 54. He had over 1,000 people at his funeral, and he, interestingly enough, he had he had one regret when he passed away, and it was that he had not written his memoirs. He had not written his story, and I have to tell you, I would have loved. I was there, for 3 years at the end when he was fighting cancer, and when he passed away. Those 3 years, I learned more about my dad and spent more time with my dad than I had the previous 19. And that's where I learned that his biggest regret was his memoir. And I just imagine reading his memoirs to my son, who is now 6, and just how phenomenal those would be. And I, such an impactful. So that night in ICU, and I know this is supposed to be a short story, but it's like I want people to really get the gist of where this came from. Is that night in ICU, surrounded by family and friends, Brad Korn, Timothy Chin, Shar McCollum came up, a top agent in Olathe, and that night in ICU, I outlined what became the 7 levels of communication.
Incredible. That's not many people can tell a story like that. So that's a good. It's a good use of a few minutes to convey that. I mean, that's an incredible story. So let's go back a little bit into the very first part of the story, and can you tell me just when that interview with Howard Britton kind of first exploded onto the scene, I get from the consumer point of view, you talk about the ego era, but what was it about that really resonated with other agents and other people in the real estate industry?
Well, I'm not sure if it did resonate. I was kind of the lone wolf. I was standing around, saying that the generosity generation is going to no longer be acceptable to the way that you're currently marketing, and they just marketed it away. They just kept marketing. And the thing was, in 2005, 2006, 2007, every agent in America thought they were a genius. They did. I mean, I thought I was a genius. They thought they were a genius, and here's why. Because, listen, during 2003 to 2007, it didn't matter what you did. It worked. I mean, you could have put your sign on the butt flaps on the carts at the grocery store and gotten business. I mean, the place where the kids pee and poop, I mean, right there where they sat on it the whole time that they're wheeling through the store, and you still could have got business. You could have put some type of action on the back of the receipt at the store, which I think is one of the most asinine ideas ever, and you would have got business. Everything worked, so everybody was a genius. Well, of course, the fall of 2008 came, and reality checked. Reality happened, and what's interesting about that is the greatest year that what was the mayor team is now the Kansas City home team. The greatest year we've ever had, Matt, it was 2009. 218 transactions by referral. Probably could have done 250 to 300 if I'd known how to do a short sale, right? I mean, we didn't do short sales. So what's interesting is we had the best year we've ever had in the worst market in Kansas City history. And that's when I hit the road speaking and professing and sharing that please adopt this method, adopt this system, because it's not just great for your business, it's great for your heart, it's great for your soul, it's great for your lifestyle. It's just a happier, better way of doing business.
Well, let's get into that part of it, into the real business part a little bit before we move on to some other things. So tell me about, let's say you're maybe a new agent, or you've only been in the business a few years, and you're probably hearing a lot about lead generation and prospecting, and there's a lot of information thrown at real estate agents on what they should be doing.
That's right.
But philosophically, how does kind of having that referral generation strategy differ from having a lead or a prospecting strategy?
Well, the first thing is that this is not referral-based or biblical-based business, whatever you want to call it. This is not a passive, wait for it to happen type of business. And I think that's been misconstrued over the years, is we think of the prospectors as the hunters, and maybe the people like myself as the people who sit around and wait for business to happen, right? And that's just absolutely not true. The thing here is how you get the lead is honestly, it's like if you're passionate about prospecting for sell by owners and expired, make the calls. I don't care, right? I mean, it's great. But the difference is, honestly, it's in the follow-up, right? I mean, it's in what happens after you get the lead that makes the difference between top agents and average agents. I mean, that's the truth. The fortune is in the follow-up, like I've said for 10 years. It truly is. And people think I'm anti-expired or anti-FSBO, and the honest to goodness truth is I'm not. I'm not. Out of the four most profitable pillars, there's 4 profit pillars in real estate. Expireds and for sale by owner have a home, right? The #1 most profitable pillar in business is repeat and referral. We know, everybody knows it. So I decided that if that's the most profitable, then that's the one I want to master first. Well, what happened is I got so busy from mastering that one that I never had to move off of the other ones all that much, right? You've got the next one is sign calls. Sign calls are a very profitable niche. You got to put a sign up anyway. Why not make it a phenomenal sign with a phenomenal call to action and get leads through that? It's a billboard in every yard, and it's more powerful because it's actually in a yard. Think about that for a second. I mean, people are saying, yes, put a billboard in my yard that markets you. It's like, that's great. The third most profitable and one of the profit pillars is open houses. I mean, open houses are one of the most underutilized, phenomenal sources of business known to man. I know an agent that had 92 people at an open house this last weekend in a snowy area, and it got so bad that the police asked him to shut down 45 minutes early because he was implementing the mega open house strategy. And it's one of those where 92 people on a wintry day, imagine what that would have been like in June. So open house, and then the 4th most profitable pillar is expireds and for sale by owner. That's it. And then people are like, well, there's got to be a 5th, or there's got to be others. There are others. In fact, if I were going to start with the next one, it'd be farming. But farming is extremely expensive to start. So it has a great profit curve if you stay with it enough. But most of the agents that are beginning can't start in farming because they run out of money before they run out of postcards, right? They run out of money before the true power hits. So I think the big thing there is that realtors change slowly. Now they're getting it. We're growing leaps and bounds. Our coaching is completely full, and though by the end of March we will have more slots available, our masterminds are standing room only. If anything, my biggest challenge right now is leverage. It's catching up with the momentum that the generosity generation has, and it's 75 to 80% agents.
Yeah, so the message is obviously resonating. It's taken a while and maybe some bad economic downturn to kind of drive the point home, but people are getting it. Yeah, which is excellent. So let's kind of speak to that audience again, and just let's say that you were kind of parachuting into a new area, didn't know anybody, but you had the resources and skills that you have your background, your mindset. How would you start off business in real estate today?
Yeah, that's great. Since I just did that. Right, so we moved to Atlanta 2.5 years ago, and there's two ways to ask that question. One is, what if you're a new agent with a small sphere of influence? And I want you to know, I did that. I was that. Right, when I began, I had 50 people in my database, and I have to tell you, I would not have called it a sphere of influence or a community of influence, because I had no influence with these people, because listen, in their mind, I was a teacher and a softball player. So I wasn't a realtor. So I didn't, everybody think, wow, he must have known everybody, and it's like, I didn't know anybody. I knew, the people I played softball with and some friends through the years, but the bottom line is that the way to start there is a combination of going from influential relationships to more influential relationships, and the way to do that with your current people is to ask them, who is the most influential person you know? Who's somebody that I should know as I grow my business? So what happened is I would ask them who I should be meeting and their most influential people they knew, and I didn't care. I wasn't looking for business. I was looking for connections, and that's a very important aspect, because when I was looking for connections, the business just came from the connections. So I was looking to be a connector and build relationships. So that's how I really got started on one avenue. The other avenue is networking. It is immediately parachuting into a group of people who already really understand the mindset of referrals and are looking to pass referrals. So networking to this day is a major league part of my business. So we just had that. I do Boost referral mastery training, and one of the questions I get a lot is I'm a new agent and I have 0 to 200 contacts. Well, first of all, you can conquer the world with 0 to 200 contacts. The other part of it is you're going to need a network, and we teach networking because that's the fastest way to meet influential people and get business.
Okay. And so let's take it a little bit further. A lot of people are going to be in this situation where they've been in real estate, 5, 10 years. They probably have that database. It may be scattered, but they know, a couple hundred people. They might have really good relationships with maybe 150 of them, but maybe know anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 people, but probably haven't been keeping in very good touch with them. So how do you take these group of people that you might have known for several years, you haven't kept in touch with them, how do you jumpstart that relationship and start kind of the process of bringing them closer to you?
That's a great question. The first thing is we have a system for that, right? I mean, and we have a system for reconnecting, and I have to say the first and foremost thing is there's a lot of people out there who are teaching this thought of an apology letter or an apology campaign, which is you call them or you write them a letter that you apologize. And here's the thing is you want to end that relation right now, just send them a letter apologizing for not communicating, right? Because are they writing you letters apologizing to you for not connecting? The answer is no. And how many times have we called someone we haven't talked to 2 to 4 years, and we just pick up the conversation literally from 4 years ago without missing a beat? But if you wanna totally mess that up and make it feel awkward for the rest of your life, apologize. Apologize. Especially don't do it through a letter, right? It's okay to say, man, it's been a long time since we talked. What's it been? And they go like, I think it's been like 6, 7 months. And you in your database it says 4 years, right? So it's interesting is they don't think it's as long as you think it is, and you're the one feeling guilty because people like me and Matt and Frank and all of these other people are saying you should be talking to your database. You should be talking to your database. And the thing is listen, don't apologize. The way to reconnect is to text or email them so that they call you, and then you are returning their call. I mean that is the way to do it. And then once you've got that reconnection, is put them into a communication plan, right? Which is chapter 7 in 7L, and it totally describes exactly how I got back into flow, got back into momentum with my Mets, with the people that I knew and the people that were a part of my circle then.
Now, do you have kind of a stock or a fallback text or a message or something that you leave for somebody to encourage that callback?
That's right. It's in the book. It's the guaranteed response email. The guaranteed response email is guaranteed to get a response. I do not suggest it that you send it to 1,000 internet leads like my friend Chip did. Ha! Chip called you out. Is that because then he got 330 some. Think about that. This is internet leads, no relationship whatsoever, but it was the guaranteed response email, and they were all calling everywhere from "Oh my God, are you okay?" to "Hey, I got this email." And they were not prepared to serve 330, so it ended up making 180 to 200 of them kind of upset. So we say pick 25 at a time. Pick 25 at times. I suggest the 25 that you most want to be in relationship with, maybe even people you would call champions and ambassadors even today, and send them the guaranteed response email, and they're going to call you. And I do suggest that you let that go to voicemail, which is very tough for some of my boosters early on. They want to answer the phone. And it's like, no, let it go to voicemail and then call them back. There's actually power to calling them back. Now you can open with, hey, as a courtesy to you, I wanted to return your call. Right now you're returning a call instead of them calling you. So the ball is in your court once they leave a message, and that's where you call back and you get into conversation with them.
Interesting. Okay. So let's get into some other things. What are some common, I guess, misconceptions? What are some of the challenges that you deal with on a day-to-day basis in the coaching part of things?
Yeah,
Maybe some of the misconceptions people pull out of the book that you have to then correct in the one-on-one.
Yeah. Wow. So number one question that we receive is how do I get coach? That is the coach in the book. That's no. I mean, literally today we probably got 5 or 6 emails on how do I get the coach in the book. I want a coach like coach in the book, and luckily that was me for a while, and now we have 4 others that have been certified referral coaches, right? Certified referral coach, and they go through a rigorous program. You're like, why don't you have 100 coaches already? Well, I'm not like other places where I want 100 coaches. What I want is I want 10 to 50 of the top coaches in the world who are taking people to new heights. This is not about, and I've met them all, and they've gone through 6 months, and they're they have reached the top echelon of their profession, whatever that chosen profession is. Tom King, one of our coaches, sold over 500 homes a year, Matt. 500 homes in a year. 501, actually. And he has reached the top. What's he do on Mondays? For us, he gives back through coaching. So he gives back on Monday, Tuesday through Sunday. The guy's working. He's selling homes. He's working with his son, and loving every minute of business and living the lifestyle of a referral-based or biblical-based business. So that's number one. So the second thing is going to maybe be surprising, and that is, what's the difference between the hour of power and the first and 10? That is honestly the number one question that we get. And I'm gonna actually use my whiteboard a little bit. I don't know how this is gonna work, Matt. We've never done this before, so hopefully it'll work. But I think one of the best ways to explain it is graphical, and just to catch people up, is the first and 10 was my strategy. It was a defensive strategy to get me to not open up the computer and get lost in the electronic communication black hole for all day. I mean, there were days I would go to the office, and I was always at the office at 9 a.m. I had my morning ritual, I had my workout, I had these things that I was doing, and then boom, I'm at the office 5:09 or 9, and my computer was all set up and everything like that because Tiffany had her morning ritual at the office, and part of it was to set up my computer and get everything situated for me. So boom, I would sit down and I would start working, and I would go, oh crap, I've got a couple things I need to do, and I would look at the clock and it said 4:38 p.m. I mean, it just you just dive into this electronic communication, and it's a black hole. It's just a time suck. And so I invented the first and 10, no computer, literally with my blessings book. I would write out, or Tiffany would write out, 10 people, which is name, phone number, and the reason for the call. And before I even flipped that computer open, I was on the phone calling those 10 people, first and 10. And the first and 10 got me going, and the cool thing about doing it first is those 10 were working for me all day long. Either they were working for me getting the paperwork I needed, or they were working for me communicating with someone else, or if this was an ambassador or champion, they were working for me as an unpaid salesperson out in the marketplace telling others about me. And I found that those people I called in the morning were my best referral sources because it was top of mind through the day. Listen, by the time they get home, they have dinner, they get the kids to bed, boom, Michael Mayer, real estate is gone. But I bought an entire day just with a simple 5 to 10 minute conversation on the phone. So the first and 10 is first thing in the morning, 10 calls. First thing in the morning, 10 calls. And then right after that, I would do the hour of power. And people were like, okay, what's the hour of power? The hour of power are people I call who have already established themselves as an ambassador or champion in my world. So I created a communication plan for everyone in my database. So 899 people in my database. I focused on 150. My 150 were my ambassadors and my champions. And here's the thing, you can't make 150 calls in one day. So what I did is I said, all right, I'm going to do it this way, which meant 2 or 3 ambassadors maybe a day and 1 or 2 champions a day. That's who I called during my hour of power. So I just broke it down so that I could talk to the right people the right amount of time. So I know that I was calling my ambassadors once a month. I was calling my champions at least once a quarter based on the plan. So my scheduled calls, in fact, I can tell you who I'm going to call on August 16th, 2015. I can tell you who I'm going to call on any day, Monday through Friday of the week for the rest of the year. They're all scheduled. So that way I know that I stay in flow and momentum with my ambassadors and champions. So that's kind of the difference, right? I'm going to draw something real quick. You're not going to be able to see it till I put it up, but hopefully this will help, right? I was going to draw a smiley face and just put it up, but
I think that'd be very useful for us all.
So I'd love to get questions from the audience. These are great questions as well. I don't know where everything's coming from, but
yeah. So guys, if you have questions, you can type them in right through the Q&A app, or if you're not able to find that to type the questions in, you can also just go directly to the Google Plus page where this live event is streaming and type them there. I'm watching both just in case. But yeah, we can definitely type your questions in. We'd love to answer them right on the air. So, and just real quick, like your first and 10, yep. These are not your automated communication plan. These are, you're teaching more like setting your first and 10. You kind of have that in mind the night before, right? Or are you setting at the end of the workday? You're setting up your first and 10s for the following day.
Yeah. So with the first and 10, the night before, during my pre-leave ritual or Friday night for Monday's calls, I'm listing out the 10 people that I need to call with my assistant's heavy input. There's just, I mean, it's like, boy, if you could really call Mrs. Seller, she could use some Michael time, right? Or if you could just call whoever, I think it would really help. Stephanie brought by a basket of cookies today for the whole staff. That might be a good idea is to follow up with her, right?
Gotcha. Okay. So we do have a first question from the audience. So Judy asks, if you're adding 100 to 200 referrals to your database every year, how do you keep your database focused to only 150 people?
Yeah, isn't that beautiful? So the very first thing is Judy, listen, is find your first 150. We do that in Boost. We help you skim through. One gal went through Boost. She had over 20,000 in her database. Think about that. But it was like the way we do it in Boost, we make it very easy for you to find your 150, and that Boost 150 are the best of the best. And honestly, that's my focus. There's so much. Professor Robin Dunbar has a number called Dunbar's number. The number is 150, and that number 150 is the greatest number of great relationships that we can build because of being human. The neocortex, the part of our brain that makes us human, only allows us to really recall, remember, and get into relationship with 150 people at a time. Well, once you have the 150 established, your job on an ongoing basis is to upgrade your 150. Always. You should always be looking to upgrade the influence, the referability opportunity, maybe even how much they love you, right? You're always looking to upgrade your influence every single year. And I have to tell you, if you looked at my calling calendar this year, I would have never dreamed that I would be in flow and in momentum with some of the people that I'm in monthly calls with. It's just amazing as you just upgrade your database what happens, and there's a mentality. Now listen, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the 50 that were in my top 150 last year and aren't this year. It's okay. They're still getting communication from me. It's just way less than my top 150. My 150 is getting a ton of communication.
Yeah. Perfect. All right, and then I just wanted to quickly answer Rich's question. Yes, this video is being recorded, and it actually stores, and you can watch it again right here on the same Google Plus page. So, absolutely, that's one of the beauties of doing it this way. So, guys, if you have any more questions, feel free to keep typing them in. We'll love it.
Awesome. Hey, just a real quick graphic on the oh, I don't know if you can you see that all right?
We can, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing because we've never. So essentially, this graphic is what I draw when people ask the question: first and 10 versus hour power. There are four kinds of outgoing calls. 4 kinds. There's actually 4 types of calls, right? One is you have the one you answer, right? And then there are 3 types of outgoing calls. And we have to manage them and time block them based on, are they proactive or reactive, and then are they scheduled or are they current? So proactive versus reactive, it's easy. The difference between proactive and reactive is, proactive is, are they happy to hear from you, and is it a pleasant surprise to hear from you? Reactive is they're expecting you to call back. Proactive is they're not expecting your call, but they're happy when they get it. Current versus scheduled is, current is something you could not predict. Current is somebody referring me today. I could not predict that Jeff Crooks was going to refer me today. I could not do that. Now, he probably would have been the guy to bet on, but I could not have predicted that, but he did, so I need to time block in my schedule follow-up and phone calls for those things that just happened. And then you have the other thing, which is you're going to have reactive and current. Reactive and current is they're expecting your call. They leave you a message and they're expecting your call. So you have to have block time for these outgoing calls. You've got to have time for proactive current, which is they're not expecting your call, and it's a and it's current, which is it's right on top of things, right? So that's the first and 10. So the first and 10 are where those outgoing calls go that are just, I couldn't have predicted them, and they're going to be happy to hear from me. For those of you that know 7L well, that they know my program well, that's my great retrace. Almost, 80% of the calls I do during the first and 10 at this point are part of the great retrace strategy, which I can explain in a little bit. Now, the hour of power is proactive and scheduled. Not expecting all, but so like I said, I tell you who I'm calling I can't tell you who I'm going to call on August 16th during my first and 10. Then we have the reactive current, right? These are the people that call in for whatever reason, and it's very reactive. They're waiting for your call. Well, that's what the callback times are for. I call people back noon to 1 and 4 to 5, or 11 to noon and 4 to 5 p.m. depending on the day. And people are like, well, callback times. I mean, I can't just do noon to 1 and 4 to 5. Okay, do 9 to 10 a.m., 11 to noon, and 4 to 5, or whatever works for you. Do 10 to 11 p.m. if it works for you. But the bottom line is that helps you explain why we have to time block 3 sets of callback times in our day, which is the callback times, the first and 10, and the hour of power. Every single day, they're in there like clockwork because the phone is the most productive use of a top producer's time.
Yeah, and that's all of that is leading up to that, which is being more productive, spending time actually, with the people on the phone that have the most impact and have the ability to bring you referrals and bring you more business, which is the point of all that. So
that's right.
So we've got a couple more questions, and this is one that I'm also personally curious about because so the book kicks off with you kind of in allegorical form, talking about meeting people in a restaurant and meeting people back to back, introducing those people and stuff like that. So we have a question from Charlene, just asking, have you had success with meeting people for coffee, lunch, or popping in with a small gift? And I would love to hear how you got started with that strategy.
Yeah, so great question, Charlene. And the first thing is I'm not a fan of popping by anywhere. I'm not a fan of that whatsoever because it's interruptive. And because I don't want people to do that to me. I have warranty reps, and I have title reps, and I have closing attorney reps who pop by, and quite honestly, I have a gatekeeper to prevent that from happening. And it's one of those where I am a huge believer in the come by versus the pop by. And what is the come by? Well, look, first of all, the philosophy is not chasing versus attractive, right? I mean, chasing versus attractive. If you're popping by, you're chasing. I mean, and it makes it puts you in a lower level than you really should be. Whereas a come by puts you in an attractive element, and all of a sudden it's putting you in a loftier position because they're coming to you and they're showing up for you. So I've found many different methods of utilizing attraction versus chasing in my business. One of those, as was brought up here, is the networking stack at the home court advantage. The networking stack is simply that. It's just a stack of networking meetings, one-on-ones. So 11:30 to 1, I have a lunch. 1 to 2, I have a coffee, quote unquote. I don't drink coffee at that, but it's called a coffee because that gets people to show up. 2 to 3, networking coffee. 3 to 4, networking coffee. And I just have those meetings back to back to back because I knew in my business that where the referrals were at was one-on-one. The more one-on-ones I did, the more referrals I got. As much as I resisted, because they're so time intensive, it was just like, I don't have time for these. So it's one of those where I did go from a weekly networking stack for years to an every other week networking stack, which worked very, very well. So I was only doing it every other Thursday instead of every Thursday. And I was doing that at a home court advantage area, which was a restaurant where I just became a regular, and the people that were meeting with me did not know that I was necessarily a regular there. Now they do, a lot of them do, they're kind of surprised at how much Michael Mayer is loved, and the love and the comments and everything else I get as I go to table 49, the waiting table, which is a 90% private table in an elevator, old cool style elevator, and it's just a wonderful way to do your networking appointments. And then I knew I had to do the one-on-ones, and everybody says never eat alone, right? My friend Keith Ferrazzi has a book called Never Eat Alone, and I love the book. By the way, read Keith Ferrazzi's book Never Eat Alone. Here's the thing, right? I did that. Now, I would do lunches, but A, it became expensive, and number two is I found that the 30-minute drive time before and the 30-minute drive time after was stressful, right? It was either because I was almost going to be late, or afterwards it was like, oh crap, that lunch was an hour and a half, and I thought it was going to be an hour, and now I'm everything's built on the back end.
Yeah.
So, but then I said, all right, I'm going to stack my appointments this way. 11:30 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, because it's better for me, and I'm going to deliver value to them. So it turned into a very strategic, wonderful tactic, because then I could introduce my 11:30 to my 1, and I could introduce my 1 to the 11:30 and the 2, and of course the 2, I called that my power position. I could introduce my 2 to my 1 o'clock and my 3 o'clock, and then of course the 3 o'clock was already introduced to the 2, and the overlap became strategic. I would take someone who loved me, put them next to somebody who didn't know me. Well, when they met, the one who knew me would talk more about me than the one who didn't know me, and all of a sudden the one that didn't know me now loved me when we were meeting. And it really is as simple as that. Listen, I'm a pretty average dude, right? It is what it is. But I'm always thinking about how to get into momentum with relationships, how to be a better friend, how to be a better professional, and how to add massive values to others. And that was the other thing, is you might think, well, you were using it strategically that way, that's good. But the most power I received from the networking stack is when I would use it strategically for others. I would say, hey, Matt, we're getting together at 2. Hey, I have an open slot at 1 o'clock. Who would you most like to meet in the city? You know, you're doing marketing, you're doing CRM work, you know, and Matt might say, well, you know what, it'd be great if I could meet a top producing attorney, or a top producing attorney, whatever it may be. I would make the connection to get a 1 o'clock with the 2 or 3 great attorneys that I have. So then at 2 o'clock, I'm introducing Matt to a top-notch attorney. I'm delivering value at the highest level, and I'm not doing anything different time-wise. So it turned out to be very strategic that way as well. Charlene, great question.
Yeah, and I wanted to, we've got a lot of questions coming in now, so I want to see if we can get to quite a few of these.
I'll be shorter with my answers. I want people to understand it so well that it's like I explain, and then I explain the depth, and the thing is that there's probably 7 more levels of depth that I don't get into. So.
Yeah, there really are, because you could talk about that networking stack, and even I didn't catch the part about strategically scheduling them to help other people and then connecting them with who you think they would want to meet, which is fantastic. So
one of my biggest accounts ever was a developer builder, and I got the account that way. I had my 11:30 to 1 with an ambassador. I had the developer at 1 o'clock, and at 2 o'clock I had a builder who I had a great relationship with. The ambassador was literally just, I mean, selling me better than I could ever sell myself to the developer. We had a great one-on-one with the developer, and realized the first impression was off the charts, because everybody was loving on me at this restaurant, and then the ambassador was talking about how great I was. All I talked about was his development during the entire, I did not talk about myself or sell myself or throw flyers in front of him or brochures or anything. It was all about him. And then at 2 o'clock, this builder came in and was talking about it. That builder ended up building on at least 25 lots out of the 300 plus lot subdivision, and millions of dollars in business from that one strategy. So there you go.
All right, so I want to read a quick comment from Dory, and then we've got 2 quick questions I want you to address because they're in the same ballpark. So number 1, Dory says, "Thank you. Your philosophy and actions have changed my whole perspective on this industry, coming from a past business of more personal relationships. And you answered how I can reconnect and implement a way of rebuilding a business in this kind of newish field for her, which is amazing that you've had that impact."
That's right.
So then a couple of functional questions. So number 1, Eric asks, when is the best time to call champions and ambassadors? And then Julie has a question just about what system are you doing to remind you to do that?
Yeah, great questions. So the first thing is the best time is honestly when it works for your schedule. People are always like prospect in the morning, do this in the morning, and I want you to know is the problem with that sometimes is it just doesn't work for certain people's mornings. But put it in there, and I have to tell you, people say, what's integrity? Well, integrity is keeping your promise. That right? Isn't that a great definition? Is keeping your promise? Well, if integrity is keeping your promise, then we need to live in integrity. And we do live in integrity when it's an appointment with someone else. Every single realtor or professional who's listening and watching this today, you have an appointment, you're going to make it. Most of you will be 5 minutes early. Some of you will be 15 minutes early. A couple of you might be a few minutes late. But the bottom line is you're going. And I want you to know that when you skyrocket as a human being is when you start keeping promises to yourself. When you set an appointment with yourself and you make it, that's when you will feel and you will live in integrity and your intentions meet your actions. That's when things explode, is when you start making those appointments with yourself happen. And that's the key here, is making an appointment and make it happen. And all right, so how do we make it happen, right? Is leverage. I'm a huge guy on leverage. I leverage technology. My phone and my calendar, which is so people are like, what CRM do you use? Well, the best CRM in the world is the one that you use, right? I mean, period. It's the best database in the world is the one that you'll use. Well, for me, I happen to use Google Calendar like a pro. I have a team who all use Google Calendar. We all share calendars. But where would I check August 16th? It's going to be on my phone, which is through Google. So I'm going to see right there in the appointment, there's an appointment with myself at 9 a.m. on August 16th, 1st and 10. There is an appointment with myself at 10 a.m., 10 to 11 a.m., that it says Hour of Power, but it also has a list of 5 to 8 names in it. And I leverage technology. So technology, you set an appointment with yourself, it pops up, and that's how you remember. Just like you would any appointment. You just set them with yourself.
Yeah, and so that's something that you're going in there, and at some point in the past, you have manually inserted it into that calendar appointment.
Every December. Every December, I do my database look, and people are like, I've got 37,000 plus contacts in my phone, which everybody loves except for Sprint when they change me phones, right? Because getting to 37,000 over there takes forever. But the bottom line is that I review it, and I can do this very quickly, but it's A plus A, B, C, D. A plus A, B, C, and I'm just, boom, I'm flying through these. Now, they're all graded for the most part. I may have 10 to 20 out of that number that's not graded, but I can quickly grade those, and I can quickly regrade the rest of them, and it's done very quickly, and then I take it from literally it's all done so old school that it's not even funny, but I take it, and then those are put into my schedule as appointments, so that the Hour of Power by January 1st is scheduled for the entire next year.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned Brad Korn, who we both know and
Yeah,
love.
yeah,
He was his top producer a lot, and you can
yeah,
build action plans and then assign
that's
them
right.
to contacts. So if you wanted to leverage yourself
Yep,
out, if you're willing to put the time in to learn that,
that's right.
Brad has had really, really great success with that. So,
Absolutely. Brad's my
uh,
best friend in the real estate world, and I support him 100%. And he is the top producer consultant if anybody needs one. And yeah, I mean, and honestly, any database with an action plan setting, it would be great for that as well.
a good question from, and I don't want to mispronounce their name here, so I'm going to leave that one alone. What's the best way to keep the conversation going and build a relationship with someone you just met? For example, a connector or an
Yeah.
influential person.
I love that question because it's showing that this person cares. It's frog, right? I mean, it's frog. I think in the old, I mean, that's what you find about this system. The 7L system is the best old mixed with the best of what's new, right? We take all the referral strategies. I've implemented them all. I've read, you're in the nonfiction part of my library right here. I mean, it goes all along the wall, several feet. I'm an avid reader, read over 2,000 books, just nonfiction books, and I've read them all. And then I'm this implementing machine, right? So I'll literally devour a book. I'd love to grab an example, and in fact, I will. I think I've got enough room. If I don't, I'm sorry. So I am on my third reading of this book, right? So this book is Give and Take by Adam Grant, and I've connected recently with Adam Grant, and phenomenal, right? So look at this book, right? Do you think that I have read this book? Okay, these are notes in the front of the book, right? And then I want you to note something, right? So then you open it up, and there's underlines and yellow highlights, and then I want you to notice also these are the studies that Adam used in his book. I've read all the starred ones. So I went back and I saw the studies on why givers are the worst salespeople in the world and why givers are the best salespeople in the world. Well, what's the difference between the worst salespeople in the world that are givers and the best salespeople in the world that are givers? Well, guess what? It's that the best givers, the best salespeople who are givers, are also phenomenal, appreciative receivers. So, and listen, my mission in life is twofold. I am here on this planet to teach people how to practice proactive generosity and how to practice appreciative receiving. That's the only reason I exist is proactive generosity. Practice it, and I mean proactive generosity. We're great at reactive. This earth needs no help with reactive generosity. Tsunami hits, something happens, we're there, we're on it, we're so good. A friend has an illness, 417 posts on Facebook about how to help, right? But where honestly, in my opinion, where it lies, the secret is proactive generosity, helping people who aren't expecting it. And the other thing is being appreciative receivers. That seems to be the thing that I teach a lot anymore. Is I've got great givers. They're people that are great givers, but the problem is they're exhausted because they're sacrificial lambs. They're giving and giving and giving. They're giving so much that they're exhausted. But what happens when a giver receives? What's amazing about that is when a giver receives, they're energized, and not only do they give, they actually give at a higher and more powerful level. And then guess what happens? They receive at a higher, more powerful level, and you get this wonderful escalating power and value that they bring the world because that giver has learned how to receive. I have some great examples of that I mean literally hit home for me because they've changed. Their life is totally different because they've learned how to receive.
Yeah, and that's my guess on that, just being personal opinion and observation from the studies of the DISC profile and things like that. I would guess that the appreciative receiving part is linked to your self-confidence and self-awareness, that the best have probably high levels of both.
It absolutely is. And I wrote my master's thesis on DISC, so I definitely have a familiarity with that. And people sometimes say, well, that's the S, right? The S. No, it's all four behavioral styles, and it goes to exactly what you're saying. It is D, I, S, or C, and it's more about awareness and being opportunistic. And many of my coaching clients do not have a natural opportunism thought process. And listen, it's how it works. But you know what? When we take 15 minutes before an appointment or an opportunity and jot down, maybe these are the 5 or 6 ways this person could help you, and then they go to the meeting, it's amazing how 1 or 5 of those opportunities come up in the conversation.
Well, and that brings up another really good question, and we've got just a couple minutes, but I really want to hear your take on this. So Judy asks that she just took Boost. It was a great program. The problem is most of her A's that refer her business don't have the spare time to meet, and she doesn't feel like she's able to unbalance the scale by referring people back to them. So what are some other things, or maybe some unique strategies for how she can give value to them?
Well, she's going to have to show up at our next hangout. I mean, because that answer is the answer that I'd love to get into is far more involved than 5 minutes. There's 7 ways to provide massive value to another. They all start with the letter T. I'm not going to go into them right now, but we put the T in generosity, and it's seven ways to give massive value first, and add proactive generosity. And it's one of those where giving them referrals back is one very small way on an entire spectrum of how you can add value to that person's life. So don't worry about that. Because here's an example, right? So I was doing my calls, and I found out that one of the people that I was talking to is going to Spain for the first time ever with her husband, who is from Spain originally. So they're going back, and normally when he went back, he hasn't been back in a long time, so this is a big occasion. So they're going back to South Spain, and then for the first time ever for both of them, they're going to go into North Spain. So it's like, well, what are you going to do there? Okay, well, what I did is I went to Amazon and I looked for books on North and South Spain and visiting Spain. So I got a couple of those books, and I had Amazon deliver them to their front door within a week, right? And it's like, oh, well, that's cool. But, how do you think that felt to them? Well, I can tell you how it felt because I got the phone call. But it's that's just one example of hundreds of thousands of different ways that we can provide value and help others. And I want you to know that 70% to 80% of it will cost you no money at all. So you can add a ton of value without spending a dime. The other part of that question, can you repeat the first part of Judy's question? Because it was time, right?
Boost. It was, the problem is that my A's that refer me business have no spare time to meet, and she says, in parentheses, they're either corporate or working Gen Ys with kids.
You know what, I love that, because here's the thing, is Judy, I want you to get out and start networking. Here's why, is because the people that are referring you occasionally will most likely never be super referral sources. They won't be ambassadors. You're probably going to have them as champions forever, but they'll never be ambassadors. Ambassadors might give you a referral a month, right? Whereas a champion is a referral a year. And some ambassadors will give you 2 or 3 a month. So, and here's why, is because they're corporate and they're Gen Y with kids at home. They don't have time to be your salesperson. But there is a certain crowd of people that you need to be mixing with and networking with. And what's really cool is you can easily find out who they are, because they're the ones that can actually make a lunch or make a 1, 2, or 3 every single week, because they're in 100% control of their time. You want to know the best referral sources? The best referral sources are the ones who are in control of 100% of their time.
Interesting. That's one of the best quotes I've heard on that. Very, very good.
Yeah.
So, Judy, hopefully that answers that question. That was incredible, and I do want to. We do need to shut that down. We've got. I think just the only question that we have left to address is more on like the audiobook version of the book. So we might pass that on to Michael so he can address that separately.
Okay.
But Michael, thank you so much. This was fantastic. Thank you guys for submitting your questions. I love bringing the questions and getting live answers to them. So we're going to do this basically every month. So you're going to see Michael coming on a live Google Hangout every single month. Sometimes, Michael, we're going to have guests and bring them on and probably interview them together about referral generation strategies and all this. So, but is there anything that you want to leave people with, anything that's really been on your mind or on your heart lately that you want to leave people with today?
Wow. That's a great question. And with a minute, it's like, wow, that's the minute of a cage, right? The cage of a minute. I think the bottom line is thank you, and thank you, Matt, for doing what you're doing. I came kicking and screaming to the Google Hangout world, right? I've been interviewed many times, so there's no setup. It's all easy. You show up and you talk, and it's great. But being on the back end, what you find is how much work's involved and all the different facets that is involved with it. And I came kicking and screaming, literally to the point where, you know what, if today doesn't happen, well, it's for a reason. And I mean that sincerely. I have to tell you, I've loved it. I absolutely love it, and I love, you know, Judy and Charlene and everybody else who participated and got to see me answer with my passion, right? I mean, it's like, and those of you that are still trying to understand the 7L system and the generosity generation and what we really stand for is that you may not understand my words like a networking stack or a home court advantage, but in this format, you can feel me. Right? You may not be able to understand me. You may not even be able to hear me. But here's the thing: is you're gonna feel me, right? And I hope that's what comes across. Is listen, in your heart of hearts, you know there's a better way to do business, and there's a way to do business that doesn't mean you have to sacrifice your integrity or sacrifice how you feel or sacrifice your sanity. There's a way to do business that can make you happier, not just happy, but happier. And you know, the generosity generation is the way it is. It's biblical-based business. It's referral-based business. But so much more. It's you want to be the most referred professional in the world, and I'm hoping that every single person here wants to be the most referred professional in their community. The way to do that is to be the most generous professional in your community. Being most generous comes first, and then being most referred comes second. And that's it. Hopefully we can teach you how to do both of those.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to this series of Hangouts. So, again, guys, in the future, we'll be emailing you to let you know when the event is. We're going to try to do these at the same time slot, at the first Friday for Eastern. So you'll see them through email. You'll be able to RSVP right here on the Google page, so you can continue to ask your questions, and we can get them answered live. So thanks again, Michael. We really appreciate everybody joining us for today, and we'll see everyone later.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Matt.